All right. How is it going? So I literally just was 27 minutes in and I had to restart. Um, which is very annoying. I like to sometimes when I do readings pace around my room and hold crystals and basically be off camera and just kind of be presenting the chart. And I then had the brilliant idea of what if I could have like on my TV the chart, so I can just be like walking around the room and talking and have it shown there. And then I did that, and then I went into I was like I want to just like make sure it didn't mess anything up with the microphone, and my microphone was not on with my headset, right? It was just with my computer, and I had done a lot, a good amount of the reading, not that much honestly, but enough for it to be like annoying. So here I go. Et j'ai parlé beaucoup en français. I spoke a lot in French, and the reading will be French and English. So um, let's 1 second share the screen, and I want to get back to it. Up there. Why? What the heck? Why is it doing this? Super weird. Why is it doing this? Not letting me see. Not letting me do like a full screen. That's really annoying. No, no, there's none left. You want a bubbly one? Take this one. Take this one. Okay, so I'm trying to get this to. Yeah, so that sucks because I had some cool things to say, but it's not the end of the world. And also I have to kind of re-say everything I said about the email that I never saw. But I already sent you the audio messages, so you're getting those, but you're not gonna get to see those in the reading. But whatever, it's not the end of the world. And it's happened before, and it's just actually made me more, I don't know, I don't want to say efficient, but like um yeah. So okay, let me get back to where I was. It kind of adds a little bit of confusion because then I'm like, yeah, but now, yeah, I know I haven't said anything. So, and I spoke a lot in French. J'ai parlé beaucoup en français, mais euh, peut-être c'est mieux parce que je connais pas beaucoup. Je connais un peu les termes astrologiques en français, mais c'est pas comme j'ai jamais. Je pense pas que j'ai jamais dans ma vie fait un, je sais même pas comment dire, une consultation complète en français. Je pense pas que j'ai jamais fait ça comme complètement en français. Euh, mais pour le follow-up, euh, en français, j'ai fait ça déjà. Mais ouais, j'ai beaucoup l'habitude de parler en anglais pour décrire les choses et phénomènes astrologiques que je vois. Alors c'est un peu difficile en français, mais euh, je pourrais le faire si j'étais obligé, mais voilà, on verra. Je vais changer un peu. So, yeah, very interesting. So, what I was starting to talk about was the theme of um the 29-degree moon in Capricorn, and the axis of Capricorn and and I'm like have PTSD. Like I need to check again. But the axis of Capricorn and Cancer. I was talking about that. Okay, perfect. I was just checking the sound. That's good. Okay. So yeah, I was talking about that axis and just how 29-degree Capricorn is just like boss energy. There's no other way to put it. But it's also it's also extremely heavy. A Capricorn moon in itself is a very difficult placement. I was saying before in the reading that will never be heard. Or was it like karmic practice? I have no idea. Um, but I was saying how yeah. Yeah, so I was talking about kind of just like the energy of 20 degrees and just like Capricorn moon, how difficult placement that can be, especially for men. So I think women who have Capricorn moons, I mean, I've seen it so many examples of it being like not that big of a deal, like with like the negative potentials of a Capricorn moon or like the difficult potentials. Um, of course, the moon is on the descendant, so it's on an angle and it's the chart ruler. So right off the bat, we know that emotions are really what guide you. You learn a lot about yourself also through your emotional through your like your actions. You can learn a lot about your emotional nature. But also because it's on the descendants, you always have to watch out, moon the seventh for codependency issues. uh so more about on that later. Anyway, um I love this. It's on my TV. It's so cool. But basically, um to have a 29-degree Capricorn moon. So it's make sure you so basically as a rising in um as someone who has a rising in Cancer, 21-degree Cancer rising, the lunar cycle is extremely important for you, right? And with the moon in Capricorn, there is a sort of emotional stuckness, a karmic emotional stuckness a lot of people have, right? Um, and it is, like I said, ruled by Saturn. Saturn represents rock. So the moon likes to be liquid, right? Like Cancer, it likes to just flow. Emotions like to flow. But in Capricorn, it's rocky. So there's a need for that person. So it's very, very karmic, especially at 29 degrees, to liquefy stuck emotional patterns. Um, so, being that it's in the seventh house on the descendant and 29 degrees, that's something very, very interesting. Um, now, hold on, I just like a little story to show that I got the chart on my TV. Um, so anyways, the Capricorn moon people, like I said, women obviously have an easier time with expressing weakness, with expressing emotion, with being vulnerable. So I think for that reason, clients of mine, people I know, like I have a really good friend, Latvian friend who lives in London who has a Capricorn moon. And she's just like the most, and she's a Scorpio, and she's just like the most full of life, just joyous person ever. And I know males with Capricorn moons where it's just like so stuck, so much stuckness. So, um, you know, there is that process looks different for everyone, but 29 degrees is like in a video game, life is a video game, it's the final test. So it's like, you know, you having the Cancer rising, following that lunar cycle is so important, right? Um, I always think it's a good idea to journal if you've never done this for, maybe a few lunar cycles, and get in touch with how, and of course, like your transits that you mentioned to me in the email, which I already spoke about in that first video. Like, and I also told you, which I will repeat, that this is full nailed readings, but because I somehow was like freaking out that I missed your email. I was like, I literally was telling you like that I have an emergency reading where you would have been able to pay extra as you said, to have it done within 24 hours. That would have been possible. So I'm just like, how did I not see that? That is really annoying. Not just because I want the money. I mean, like, that's not the reason. The reason is because like it would have been, better for both. I love doing those, and um I I don't know. There's just something to the the kind of like boom, let's go, let's do it, let's figure it out, and I that's like the only live reading. Only time I offer a live natal reading is if it's an emergency reading. I'll do it live or recorded. But so what I was telling you is that when you get this to add the current astrology, I give you a massive discount, and I would like prioritize to get you um scheduled. Of course, you have to take in the nail chart as you will, but prioritize to really get you in. It's not a long wait for current astrology. It's literally just my schedule, um, and when my next kind of live appointment is in my calendar. And I haven't been scheduling a lot lately, to be honest. I've really wanted to catch up with my readings, which I have done. I'm close, nearly done with 2022. Um, so anyways, um, yeah, like 29 degrees, fate playing such a massive role. So relationships will be very faded, for some of the chart like this. And South Node in Aquarius, North Node in Leo, your North Node's conjunct my ascendant, you know. So um and now this is like one part I can't remember if I said this in the last video or in this one. So if I do repeat myself a tiny bit, well, I do that anyways to prove points. But yeah. But like basically like yeah, like second house, North Node and Leo, it's all about there's a big need to shine. And there's a karmic tendency to have given. Eighth house, potentially as a healer. Um, so when you have that tendency, I met so many of my clients have this, right? Like it's interesting, right? Like so many of my clients have the opposite nodes as I do, right? They have like exactly what you have. So I find that very fascinating. And it's what I always experience in them is this difficulty with being able to accept praise, with being able to, and like for example, like let go, be like the inner child, because that's what Leo wants us to be. Leo wants us to be the inner child. It wants us to be able to let go, to be able to just flow with life and delve into whatever makes us really flow. And that's the thing with Capricorn Moon is that yeah, as I was saying before, like the moon ruled by rock, there's a need to kind of break down. So the key to that is to kind of push yourself to be vulnerable. Push yourself. Um, and like I said, it's easier for women to do this than for men, typically, right? Um, but at 29 degrees, the way I look at 29 degrees is that it is a culmination of so many past lives. And because it's already sad, it's Saturn. It's just so much like it's like the emotional, it's like there's so much like the karmic like implications here are just so major, right? And it's really asking you, a lot of you, because like when I first actually started doing this recording, I said this, and it's funny I said this because I said, wow, it looks like you have very few aspects, you know? And but I was like, but I don't want to jinx myself because I've had like some really intense but beautiful and amazing readings lately. Um, I was like, your aspect grid is very empty. Um, right? How interesting. But I was like, I don't want to jinx myself because sometimes I see that and I do the reading and it's not simple, right? I started calling my astrology. I mean, I always call it cosmic puzzle, but yeah, I called it the cosmic Rubik's cube. I don't know if there's something in between, but yeah. So with another thing with like like the idea of kind of codependency could be very, very common with someone at the seventh moon on the descendant because they can take a lot of their emotional, they can have such an emotional need for relationships and they can take a lot of their emotional um kind of like they feel their best when they're in relationships, and it's almost like it can be very difficult for them to be alone, right? That's the tendency. Now, that's also kind of Aquarius is all about friends. It's very social. And eighth house is about strong partnerships. I know partnerships is seventh house, but eighth house is about just like strong, like forming alliances, and it's the idea of being able to really grasp on to something that gives you power, right? But it's external. Eighth house, remember, is external. Just as someone with a lot of eighth house planets could, benefit from an inheritance or marrying wealthy or, being, benefiting from other people's resources, right? The second house, your North Node, where Leo is about the resources you have for yourself. So, of course, there's, financial resources. That's just, that's one thing. And of course, being a Taurus, you're not meant to be poor. Um, like, let's just say it. It's in the 11th house too. It's a house of gain. But, the real karmic journey is related to, when I think of the second house in this context, I think of finding a set of values that you truly, truly subscribe to. They are unique to you and you only. And you base all of your life decisions on these. So in Leo, that's kind of giving us a clue to how that is discovered, right? It's discovered through play, through letting the self go, through just like the inner child being let out. Now, when we talk about Leo energy and the fact that there's a lack of fire, I think I had this in my post that I released today. I wrote it yesterday, so I kind of forget already, but I think I said something about like one way I know if someone's an advanced soul is if their north node is in an element and has no supporting uh inner planets, right? I mean, yeah, you have Neptune, but that's not an inner planet. So, or supporting as in the same element, right? So you have no fire, but you have your North Node in fire, right? Um, so so going back to what I was saying, there's a big need, right? And Capricorn is like the father, right? And then I was talking about the axis of Cancer and Capricorn, the axis of identity, gender, like, but like I said, that. So basically, with the Capricorn moon, there in how it's playing out with the second house North Node is that there's this need to fuel. My iPad just randomly starts saying connected to iPad. I have to go to my iPad and disconnect right when I was in the middle of talking. Disconnect. There we go. Okay. So, yeah, basically it's really it's kind of my perspective of this is that you're being challenged in this lifetime to let loose and to create and to become in touch with that inner child. And I see that Virgo energy, which I'll talk about in a little bit, right? Which can Virgo Mars conjunct Jupiter, 0 degrees, right? See that combination I know very well because my brother has a chart that's somewhat similar to yours. Different, but like there's some aspects of it that are similar. And um actually you guys have the same big three. He's a Cap moon, Cancer sun, Taurus rising. So yeah, interesting. But yeah, so the idea that so having a difficulty with fire, right? And let me see, I feel close to my TV. Yeah, and you've got Mars conjunct Jupiter. I'm looking to see if there's I mean, yeah, I mean, mm, square, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like you could say that Mars squares Uranus. Every astrologer has different orbs. For me, the thing is so you have like two aspects that like I'm just like I'm gonna talk about them, but they're kind of I mean, I think if it's seven, it's yeah, it's like a 7 degree difference, but in different signs, which for an aspect between an outer planet and an inner, I don't think that the signs. I think it's more about kind of the energy, but it still does make a difference. But whatever. Anyways, yeah. Because the whole idea of the aspect is the as I was reading earlier the illuminate the receiving and sending of light to the luminaries. But yeah, like so Mars being square Uranus, the loose square, um, can definitely give a little bit of firepower. Um, but besides that, there's definitely a lack. And when you're missing fire in your chart, it can feel hard. It can feel difficult to kind of find your passion. Um, the things that really get you moving, and it can be really difficult to, lean into that Leo North node. Because it's like the inner critic can be so loud with a lot of energy, but the key is to to lean into emotions and that's like a very, very important aspect of it. And one really great thing, that I see with your midheaven is, wow, we have like things going, is exactly conjunct my sun and my Mercury. So like with, it's such a high Pisces midheaven and Neptune, the sixth house, vertex in the sixth house too. Wow, we have interesting aspects. Your midheaven's conjunct my sun, exact, and your Neptune is right on my moon. That's interesting. Um, the two I was just talking about, but that combination kind of makes me think of like someone who, because like your midheaven ruler is in the sixth, um, and like how spirituality, compassion, being a healer. I mean, you have Chiron, your sun, right? Chiron, your sun is the healer, right? The person who's meant to be a healer, but they usually have to go through what's typically uh, pain related to the father, to the more dominant parent. Um, but they're very, it makes one very, very compassionate and able to understand the suffering of humans and all species, and just really, really in touch with that part of reality, right? Now, going back to what I was saying, so if it's difficult, so if there's a lack of, if there's no fire in the chart, what's the, like, what are the steps that one must take? Well, okay, first, um, or step one, I guess, is to do the emotional work, right? So with the whole dream journaling thing, or like lunar cycle journaling thing, I think it would be interesting because they're going to impact you a lot more as a Cancer rising, and um, it'd be very, very interesting to know what, when the moon's in this sign, what's it like? What's like, what days are, what moon signs are, and you just obviously just search the current plants on Google, it pops up. What's the best? It'd just be cool to see like what cycles show up, right? Like for me, for example, I mean, I don't do that, but I know, every time the moon's in Scorpio, I know, trust me. Um, so yeah, I have a very, very dark Scorpio harmonic chart. But so for you, the key, so it's almost like you're being asked to do something that feels foreign, right? Um, but even though it feels foreign, doesn't mean that you cannot, with awareness and with effort, just go towards it. So like lacking fire, people that, I've noticed the trend of like, it's like people with lots of fire, they can just like be passionate about this, be passionate about that, and then just like start this, start that. People who lack it, sometimes there's difficulty with that aspect of life, right? Um, and when the moon's in Capricorn at 29 degrees, there can be a stuckness, a karmic stuckness, right? That can get in the way of everything. So what I was getting into with the Neptune in the sixth house, right? Sixth house rules your daily activities, your work. You Neptune sixth house people, like, they just cannot exist in normal 9 to 5 kind of like traditional life, right? Especially with a 20, like, like your 27.57 degree or Pisces midheaven, right? You really want to give back, right? Your life, you want to have compassion, oneness, spirituality, and that can play out in many different ways, or even like, it could be very artistic as well, right? Fantasy, imagination, like those are things that you want to be a part of your, not just your overall midheaven, your career, your dharma, your your external life, but your everyday, right? And you'll have like difficulty coping with kind of the just the hustle bustle of the world. Now, with the moon in Capricorn, there is um this part of a cat moon that gets completely unlocked once they have figured out what it is that they have that is special that they can give, right? Once they figure out, oh, I can help people in this way, you know? Oh, I can make myself feel, not feel, I can make myself, I am useful, I am valuable in this way. That's when things really, really, really change. Um, but with the lack of fire, there can be a lot. So you're so interesting, the similarities to my brother, because, um, yeah, I'm not gonna get into it, but like, yeah, so it's fascinating because he has a Sagittarius North Node, and he definitely struggles to find those passions and kind of find that fire that motivates him, and I'm over here with all my fire, all this fire in my chart, just so many different things I'm passionate about. Not that I'm saying I'm perfect or, whatever, or just like feeling it or anything like that. But one thing I am is passionate, I love so many different things. And like I think another aspect of it is that sometimes Capricorn moon people, and like I said, a lot of this has to do, and we'll talk about the Pluto square and kind of how it's like it's far, so it's not as like just prominent, but we'll go into it. Then the follow up we can talk about um how that looks in your life. But I think that Capricorn moon people on a low vibe. Remember that there's so I'm not saying this is you, but sometimes they care a lot about what other people think of them. I've seen that a lot, right? So that has to, there's a big need to get past that. Now, with the second house, right? You're trying to become someone who is not relying on other people, who's not relying on any other systems of of power, right? Where it's through your combination with someone or something that gives you power. It's like about internal resources, right? Like meditation, for example. Um, and Leo, like a great metaphor is art therapy. Like in art therapy, one's able to kind of discover, through the process of art and their creativity, more about themselves, about their authentic selves, right? Not the conditioned self. So that's a major archetype already. Just like this idea of discovering the inner child through really working with, through really pushing the self to open up to different types of creative expression, creative outlets. And then also with what I was saying, how the work, because like if you are a healer, right? And but I forget if I said this on this recording or the first one. Like I have never seen a photo of you. I do not look at anything about my clients. I don't want to know anything. I literally want to know zero, 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 zero. Unless there's something they write. But why I was checking your email in the first place, because I typed your last name in, and boom, like it showed this other email that I never opened or seen. What the, what? So I was checking the order to see if you had like any comments, like, hey, can you like make sure that, to go talk about this a lot. I'm going through this or that. Some people will leave those. Um, so yeah, so I think so a seventh house moon a lot. So there can be like a potential for codependency, right? And you have Black and Lilith in Libra, so that also touches on how you have to watch out for allowing yourself to be kind of I don't like saying pushover, but you have to watch out for allowing other people to kind of um to be like kind of like a yes, I guess a yes woman or not a yes man, but um and also when it comes to like indecision, it's really important to um learn kind of like to be very, very diplomatic, right? And I definitely think that Black and Lilith, yeah, we'll get into that a little later. But having clients, right? So if you are a healer, having clients is literally one of the best. Like it's like your chart is like almost like made for that, right? Seventh house moon, so you get like a lot. So like that could show up in another kind of way as like just like this big emotional need for relationships, and then with the Black moon, Lilith, and Libra, like because the need is so much there, like the moon's there, and so much of the emotional like life is based on relationships and how good they're going, then the person starts to kind of put themselves to the side and allow things they shouldn't allow just to keep the relationship alive, right? That's the shadow. Now, the higher energy is relationships that are based off of um, solid foundations and honesty, right? And emotional connection. So at the essence of this all like is that literally that's like a cheat code for this chart is working in a field like as a psychologist or doing what I do, some version of it even as an artist. But like having clients where you're a healer and they come to you, like that's all over your chart. So if you do that kind of work, but some people like will have like charts like this, and I'll say this and we'll have the follow up and they'll tell me what they do, but then they'll be like, but like a lot of the times I'm spot on, right? Majority. Um, and they do something that's kind of related to what I saw. But sometimes there's variations where they'll be like, yeah, I work like I work in this field, but like, like either like I have this other passion for whatever it is. It's like very based like this client I had the other day who had something similar, and her thing she was working in, what was her job? I can't remember. It was something. It was a hair. She was a hairstylist. She she did really well for herself. But she really her chart was really about being a healer, and she was really trying to kind of move into that next phase of her life as a healer, and that's like a lot of what we talked about in the follow up, and then kind of saw the current astrology and how that played into everything. It was very interesting actually. But so yeah, having a mutable midheaven can really give that potential also, right? um for kind of having mutability and changeability with your career, your public image, and all that. So um, things can come in different phases. Some people, are meant to like work in a certain sector for a certain period of time, and then um, at a certain point switch. Um, but besides that, the more that emotions can be like talked about, and like I said, the crystallized emotional patterns can be identified and released, um and especially when it comes to like self-limiting beliefs, that's when like I said, a lot of that comes from doing something that you not only that you love, but that you truly feel in your heart is bringing, it's really like helping and touching people. So helping or touching, that's not really like it's like a mix of like kind of something that's respected and something that gives you a sense of satisfaction and like I did a good job. You know, like what I'm doing is important. What I'm doing is, you know, either important in the sense of it's helping people and um or important as in the sense of, you know, it's like for example with the North Node of Leo in the second house, you know, um you know, it could be it could very well you know, be something, you know, if it's something creative that is very helpful to you in that sense, or just something that allows you to kind of step up and you know, for example, like being an entrepreneur of any kind, um, or like a photographer, you know, like there's a million different things, right? Um, but the key is that um, you know, you're really here to really gain this to really like get deep into yourself. Now, on that subject of deep into yourself, look at where Pluto is. 19. I wish I had like a touch thing with my TV. That'd be cool. 19. So it's, you know, it's a 10 degrees from being square the moon. Exactly. So it's 80 degrees away. But um, you know, we can still talk about some, you know, the moon square Pluto themes and see how they align. But, you know, a lot of times it's around the mother, um, and overly domineering mother. And the emotions can be just really, really intense, very swinging back and forth. Um, there's a tendency to experience kind of the darker side of emotion. Sometimes the mother doesn't even like want, like the kid was like unwanted in extreme cases. Um, Sometimes the mother had the kid during a kind of traumatic or just very difficult time in her life. Like I said, it's 10 degrees, but yeah, with the moon and the sun, use wider orbs. Um, so um, I think that a lot of healers that I come in contact with, they have something like this that kind of pushes them, right? Um, Taurus is not a sign that loves change. Capricorn, I wouldn't really associate with change as well. Um, However, when there's a square moon and Pluto, it does kind of create that energy where the person has to kind of go through this, and having a Capricorn moon 20 degrees also does this. There can be more of an urgency in this lifetime to kind of get to like, yeah, to like, kind of like liquefy, you know, liquefy the emotions, right? To open them up. And you can kind of have clues about this based on, you know, if there's a feeling of stuckness in your life, right? Um, and like like, you know, with the ascendant, um, in Cancer, you always know that you can learn a lot about your emotions through, you know, like, you know, through your actions, right? Through the way you kind of just, yeah, through your not just actions, but just through your personality, through the way you project yourself in the world. There's insight there, right? Um, Also, relationships, whether they're romantic or with clients or with business partners or whatever, those close one-on-one relationships teach you a lot also. And I think a lot of healing can be done within them. Also within friendships, right? Because you have your sun in the 11th conjunct Chiron. So, there's this aspect of the Taurus that kind of like having the Taurus Capricorn Earth. Typically that would speak to a good relationship between the parents, at least between them, or like at least similar worldviews. That doesn't always translate to perfect relationships with the children, but and I'm not saying that the parents have a perfect relationship, but typically when the sun and the moon are in the same element, there's some kind of continuity, some kind of similarity. Now, 11th house sun is the arena of life where you're meant to shine is, so once again, we're connecting dots. Leo, your north node is in Leo. Leo is ruled by the sun. So the north node ruler is the sun. The south node ruler is Uranus in the 5th, which is interesting. So the north node ruler in conjunct Chiron is basically kind of telling me that it's through humanitarianism, through groups of people, alliances that you form, causes that you really care about, fighting for those causes, right? Goals, like large ambitious goals. Like a lot of 11th house sun people, like they find their true calling like later in life. It's like the goals that are like the life goals, like huge, major goals. So the fact that it's conjunct Chiron, it gives you that clue that by really going into the full high energy of that is going to unlock the north node. And when you're able to be of service, when you're able to heal others, you're able to heal yourself, right? And when you're able to sit with someone else who's suffering, it sort of puts you in touch with your own. And it has a healing effect on you. Now, with Chiron conjunct the sun, of course, typically there's a father wound. In Taurus, Chiron, I always think of that as like self-esteem issues, pain, wound around that, around not feeling, sometimes it's not feeling attractive enough, sometimes it's not feeling good in your body. And being in the 11th house with the sun, there could be a level of fear or pain that has shown up in that area of life. At the same time, that's where you're meant to shine, right? So it's like, yeah. And then you have Ceres and Mercury there too. So yeah, it's definitely a chart that speaks, that's very cause focused and definitely has like a very prominent, important kind of very specific goal, right? A very specific type of like destiny, right? Or high destiny / like higher purpose. And with the 29-degree moon, there's a lot of fate that plays into that. So the fact that your South Node is in Aquarius, right, which rules the 11th house, that gives you this natural propensity to kind of work well in groups, have this natural kind of like humanitarian worldview, and yeah, but so yeah, so that's a major clue, and that does definitely require a level of vulnerability, right? Put yourself out there like that, and it feels, you know, very uncomfortable for a lot of Leo North nodes to really truly put themselves out there. But that cat moon just feels so good when, you know, like, because Cap does not lie, you know, in the sense that like Capricorn is, it's pretty straight to the point, right? Um, it's not a sign of like self-delusion or anything like that. So while other um people, charts of other people, there can be that element of self-delusion, you know, Capricorn, and especially when you add the Virgo aspect, you know, there's a lot of realism, right? And the realism can be sometimes bleak, right? But it's very honest. So, you know, yeah, so not quite a grand trine. Elemental grand trine, of course, with Earth, but be like Saturn, Moon. But you know, you have Saturn also trining, you know, on the IC, so that's another big indication, right? Of feeling kind of. I made a video about this earlier, but I didn't release it. It's just like I made some YouTube videos for the future. But I was talking about Saturn on the IC and how that can make one's early childhood kind of developmental period feel very restricted, you know, like perhaps the parents were quite strict, you know, the moon in that square of Pluto, a lot of times, and like, as I said, I'll keep repeating that, like it's a wide orb, so you know, we'll have to see how the lived experience matches with that. But like it could be a very overly domineering mother, and you know, perhaps that there's kind of like a level of perfectionism, right? Because you have Pluto in the fourth. So um obviously I do whole signs. Um, but yeah, I'd be in the fourth either way with Black and Lilith. So I actually have those same placements. And what can happen is there can be a lot of darkness, kind of in the ancestral. It can be like really, really based on like this person, you being like the person, and I say this in so many readings, it's crazy. But I guess I just I attract these types of clients who are meant to really be the ones to kind of break some type of ancestral cycle or trauma, right? Um, and it's not easy with the cat moon, but you know, the square with the Pluto would make a lot more sense in that sense because um in the Black Lilith down there too, how a lot of darkness can kind of play out, um or could have played out in the kind of early years. And with the Saturn I see, you know, third house Saturn can be about, you know, siblings, um feeling restricted by siblings, you know, the Mars there too, Jupiter. um but really like it comes down to, yeah, just a feeling of overall restrictiveness, growing up. And like you couldn't really express yourself, which can lead to a level of shyness, right? And the Chiron on the sun can, yeah, it definitely creates someone who really needs to like heal a lot. And as I said, that's through the inner child work, right? Um, Now with the with the Mars and Virgo, right? That conjunct Jupiter is very interesting because Mars and Virgo, and it's at 0 degrees, right? So it's like a very new energy. Um, it definitely gives Mars and Virgo can be its own worst enemy in a sense. Um, because with a Capricorn moon, it can create someone who might have trouble, like very, very, very detail oriented, um, very capable. I mean, the Saturn trining Sun. I mean, that's just like someone who's ultra responsible and who's going to be successful for sure. Um, but they can be very kind of their like own worst enemy and very critical. Um, Now Jupiter, of course, with Mars is very, very good for confidence. It's actually like probably one of the best aspects in astrology. So it kind of does really help. Like a Mars in Virgo on its own, can be very, very critical of themselves, really, 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 really critical of other people until it gets to a point of true North Node Leo, kind of just letting go and having fun and flowing, right? Inner child. Um, but all that following the third house, it makes like, it makes me think that like communication and finding your own voice would have been quite difficult, right? Um, and that then when you throw that Uranus square with the Mars, that makes me think that there is some sort of rebellious streak, right? That there is some part there that there's a part of you that really, really always wanted to kind of break free from the restrictions, right? That wanted to kind of, and fifth house is, how you create. So when you have Uranus in the fifth, you tend to have like a very unusual hobbies. Um, you can literally create through your intuition, right? Um, so when you get into that creative zone, a lot of downloads can come to you, and it's a beautiful thing. Also, a little kind of random vertex and Chiron in the six I talked, or vertex and Neptune in the six I talked about. But pets, my cat just jumped up, so yes, can be very, very healing. Um, and you can have like a almost psychic kind of relationship with them. But yeah, so back to kind of the third house energy. And Saturn's like 7 degrees from the IC, but still, right? So early restrictiveness, not feeling like you could like really like find your true voice. Maybe like there's something, maybe like there's some form of perfectionism or kind of expectations in your family. Um, but having Mars and Jupiter, it does create a confident person, and it's very, very good for taking action. And yeah, it's just like it gives one lots of kind of fortune when they do take action that is in line with their highest being, right? Um, Now, sometimes people who have this, but in different signs, there can be like the overindulging. Um, but I think with your chart, it's really positive because it does create kind of a part of you that wants to take risks, you know, and that can be a leader, and that also it's very good for, you know, being quite. It's usually quite optimistic, right? Um, and social, right? So it definitely does add kind of an assertiveness and kind of um yeah, just like a courage. So that's nice. So I think the Mars is very interesting, right? No, Mika. Yeah, so I think that there's lots of trial and error, you know, the 0 degree Mars. Like lots of new adventures, and yeah, it can be quite visionary because it's like kind of seeing it for the first time. It's like the Fool card in tarot, right? Um, so sometimes there has to be like this trial and error before getting things right. Um, but yeah, there's definitely, and also like there's kind of like that daredevil kind of smashing through traditions that's also seeing that square with Uranus. But yeah, it can go to extremes. So the Virgo, which is obviously more conservative of a sign, can actually be quite good. Um, Not to mention that it's in they're both in very close proximity to Regulus. So different sign. 90 now, it's in Virgo, but still. Um, because like a Regulus Mars, and what's Mars at 0 point? Yeah. It definitely gives, you know, a very strong character. Um, and you know, it can make someone like very like there's different aspects in your chart that are like very good for like sports, like physical, you know, the physical, like Jupiter Mars is a lot of athletes will have that, right? Because in like Fortune, Mars is like in their actions, right? And then Regulus, yeah, um, can give like even like public prominence. But with Jupiter being even closer, um, you know, that's it's one of the best possible configurations for success, right? Where you can really reach high positions of trust, um, and be very, very successful, right? But also with Regulus, and I have a Regulus tattoo to remind me that when you the thing with Regulus is that if you seek revenge in different situations, that bad things happen. And if you use that power, that royal, it's like that royal star, that royal king, queen. It's a king, but yeah, like king, queen kind of energy in a bad way. There could be like a big fall. Um, yeah, so it can really help people kind of have lots of like reach like very high positions where people like trust them, and yeah, So that's cool. And I think also having that conjunction in your third house helps you kind of have your voice be heard, right? Like get your voice out. Um, the question is like what is the inner critic doing? You know, like how present is the inner critic? Um, because the high manifestation of that is someone who's very, very organized, someone who is, you know, punctual and detail oriented, all that, understands the steps it takes to kind of get to their desired goal, but also understands that there's no potential for them to be perfect. So what I always tell people when I see these types of configurations is like, I always go back to this example for one of my clients who had, you know, a lot of Virgo, and we were talking about meditation. And I literally told her, I said, you know, it's like the classic example of the person who starts meditating, they get on a roll, day 10 comes along, they're adding like 2 minutes to their time each day. And then somehow, for some reason, day 11, they just like can't, you know, they just don't do it or something happens. I don't know. And it's about being able to get back on the horse when setbacks come, because Cat Moon, Virgo Mars, like it can make that person like so hard on themselves to the point to where they kind of can fall back into this kind of like almost like self-loathing type energy. But like when a Capricorn moon is sad, every like it's so heavy, and that's why being a female in today's world with the Capricorn moon, I think I said in this one, I wrote a whole article about it, is easier because you know the chances of you being someone who's emotionally vulnerable are a lot higher. As girls grow up, they you know form friendships and bonds typically, which is going to bring me to my next topic about gender. Um, you know, where they talk about emotions, right? Well, boys are talking about like sports and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that like a third house Jupiter is someone who's just, you know, with Mars there, it's like someone who can be a spokesperson for the masses and who has a real gift when it comes to whether it's written communication or speaking. Um, now I do see Venus is opposite Neptune and Sun. Oh, interesting. So, hmm. So Sun's opposite Uranus. So, and Mars does not square Sun, but they both kind of, um, you know, either way, there's, you know, Uranus is activated, and a Sun opposite Uranus, it definitely creates someone who wants to, you know, separate from, a lot of times they want to like escape their family like early in life. They are very kind of anti tradition. Um, so it's interesting how that works with your chart, right? Because Uranus is all about change. So right now, interesting, because you're going through Uranus conjunct Sun when you have it opposite Sun natally. So that's like a real integration period, right? Um, like for someone who is natally who has like a Uranus Sun opposition natally, and then has their Uranus opposition coincide with Uranus conjuncting their Sun, that is like the true activation of that person's individualization, right? That is really their go time. And it can feel like a lot because Taurus, there's that resistance towards change, right? Typically, right? So Taurus is a sign that likes things to stay the same, as you know. And Uranus is always trying to get that person out of that change. So it's very karmic. And it totally relates to that North Node and Leo journey because, you know, Uranus Aquarius, opposite sign of Leo. You know, both signs are on the axis of individualization, really related to kind of finding yourself as an individual. And, you know, so Sun opposite Uranus people, like I spoke about having like a very specific life purpose and how that, you know, can come later in life for a lot of people. Well, this, I didn't even notice this opposition when I said that. And, you know, that this kind of doubles down on that, right? So sometimes, yeah, it's like, yeah, it's around this period where you really get kind of kicked into what you're really meant to do. But yeah, I mean, Sun opposite Uranus is very good for lots of things. It makes someone very, very kind of futuristic and inventive and, um, you know, so that creates kind of this split in the chart between that part of you and the part that wants to kind of stay more traditional, right? Thing like change versus um change versus staying the same. Stability versus risky but exciting change. Um but yeah, I mean like the person who has this is you know, definitely like I see someone who probably like, you know, really always, you know, very independent, you know, someone who wants to kind of always want to kind of make it on their own, in their own way. Very, very freedom loving. So yeah, it's like that that struggle for independence early in life, is what leads a lot of people who have this to kind of like get out of their home at like 18 or like 17, or, you know, like start working really, really young, that kind of thing. So another thing is like if the upbringing um was full of change and uncertainty, then it can make things worse. Um, and it can make, you know, just in general, like sudden changes that life just throws on you can be very, very, there can be like a lot of struggle dealing with those and learning to kind of adapt, right? So it's like, it's asking you to like learn how to be like remain calm during chaos and finding order within that. But yeah, very rebellious. So I mean that would probably be linked to the father. Want to rebel from the father usually. Um, and you know, you tell someone with a Uranus opposite or square sun to do something, they'll sometimes do they'll do the opposite. They want to do things their own way. It's better to just like, you know, like um you know, you can give them clues and ideas, but ultimately like they want to be the captain of their own ship. But they can also make one quite impulsive, right? Um, And with a moon ruled chart, you know, the emotions can really play into that. So yeah, like coming to terms with that kind of, I guess, like eccentric part of you is really important as a cat moon. Cat moons, like I said, you know, like there can be that tendency to really just want to fit in, you know, and really just not like, you know, like it's very traditional. So that kind of creates a conflict. And Taurus is also traditional. So it's Cancer. Um, so that's kind of the karma here, right? Is that it's really like asking you to shake things up. Um, so yeah, it's also very linked to kind of like once again, like humanitarianism, activism, um, whatever causes you really care about. Can also make like a revolutionary, you know, like it's like someone who can be like quite extreme, like a nationalist, like super patriotic, or just like the opposite. And you know, Capricorn moons sometimes have like a very strong tie to where they're from, their culture. Now I was going to talk about the axis, right, of Cancer and Capricorn, because that's your ascendant and your moon. That can be confusing because, um, you know, the of like the karmic potential of having had like a recent gender shift, and a lot of people, I can't remember if I said this one in this reading or in the 27-minute one that is getting deleted. But yeah, there can definitely be a potential for identifying more with the other gender. I'm not saying that like in a like way where it's like trans or anything like that. I'm saying that just with different features, um, like like a commonality that I've seen people who have this axis really stand out is yeah, just like saying something along the lines of like, yeah, like I've always had more, like if it's a girl, you know, I've always had more um male friends and kind of identified more with like the masculine side of myself. So there is, you know, yeah, there's definitely a need to kind of find that balance between you know, the emotional like inner life and the outer dharma work life, right? There's that the balance is needed. Um and as a Cancer ascendant, you know, that brings emotions to the forefront, and um you know, so a big part of kind of like the journey here is, you know, I mean there's so much luck, so like but yeah, a big part is like karmic emotions, you know, karmic emotional patterns. Then your nodes have a square with Uranus. Interesting. um but Venus, you know, had beautiful sextile Jupiter. It's in the 12th house, and I think, you know, Venus and Gemini 12th house. Venus in 12th house, I always think, okay, well, on one level, your descendant now, you know, is you have your moon on your descendant, right? So I always think at 20 degrees, okay, well, that person is going to have like a lot of fate when it comes to their relationships, right? Um, because they're going to learn a lot from those relationships. Um, and then 12th house Venus opposite Neptune. I was talking about that earlier. So definitely some kind of karmic tendencies, like with Venus. opposite Neptune, there can, be a Venus in 12th house opposite Neptune. Like that's like really someone who benefits when they're of service, when they're leaning more and more into spirituality. Venus by itself in the 12th house, 12th house is, it's like the collective unconscious, deep mysticism, and many other things. It's really related to past life karma. And yeah, it just adds that karmic relationship um, uh, aspect to all of this, right? Um, and the fact that it's opposite Neptune, that opposition can, it can create identity crisis, right? When um, one doesn't accept their individuality, like what they, because Venus is what you value, it's how you love yourself, right? So in the 12th house, yeah, like I always describe it as like a lantern or a flashlight that can kind of light up those areas and give you like lots of talents in the esoteric mysticism and just understanding and being able to kind of um you know gain deep insights, right? And then south node of the eighth house, a lot of those are carried from the past lives, and those two trine each other. You can see that. So there's a lot of past life talents that you have related to the esoteric. um and I think, yeah, 12th house Venus definitely, it does cultivate like a deep spirituality. um and it makes one really want to experience like the highest octave of love. Now with Neptune and Venus, those two together is like the ultimate most romantic possible and energy possible, right? But with the Capricorn moon, one second, I'm gonna call. Hold on. One sec. My brother calling me, ironically, as I'm doing a chart that's so similar to his. So, um, yeah, so Venus, in the 12th, um, there's lots of karma. There can also, there can be things like, obviously I spoke about like lots of like spiritual studies, but there can sometimes be, I've seen Venus in 12th, like there can be like kind of secret love affairs, and I like Venus in 12th. Like it's on its own, so it's not like there's not like a stellium there. Um, because you can really, like, through love, compassion, just love in general, you like there's a strong link between spirituality and love, and it's in Gemini, right? So we'll talk about that in a sec. But yeah, it really does kind of add like a wisdom. Um, I think also though that yeah, there's a certain level of like kind of privacy. What just happened with my headphones? That sounded off. Let me go back to a check. Check. Okay, we're good. Um, I think Venus, in the 12th. Yeah, I'm gonna disconnect my TV. How do I do that? No. Here. Where was I? Where was I? Oh yeah, here. Disconnect. Okay, TV turn off. Okay, should show me camera on. Okay, there I am. Pop up, pop up, pop up. That's way too much. Oh, my light's still on because I was filming earlier. That's too dark. I like to go with this one. No, not that one. My human design is like just validates like that I like to do things at night and in the dark. The vampire. But this is a little bit too dark. Let me turn this one to like that. All right, here's my face. So yeah, Venus in the 12th, very romantic. I think people can kind of yeah, abandon themselves to the unknown and yeah, there can be so with the Neptune opposition, like there can be kind of like this need to really become realistic with love because there can be like excessive idealism that can play out and this like pursuit for the perfect partner. And when you combine that with the Virgo energy, um like until like there's a big need for you to get through like perfectionism, right? Like for you to overcome that, or else there's a big risk of you kind of putting that on partner or potential partner and having expectations that where I call it you're almost like trying to find God in a partner, right? Um, but it's interesting it's in Gemini. Because Venus in Gemini, so if I go through like everything with love, right? It's such a sore, like it's a rotator cuff. I don't know. So, Venus in Gemini, they're known as like the flirts of the zodiac. Obviously, in the 12th can be a lot deeper, and really wanting like that deep spiritual relationship. But yeah, the opposition with Neptune, right? Why does my computer look so weird now that I just had it do that thing? Whatever, whatever. I have to, like stare at my TV just distorted everything. Yeah, so so basically, yeah, Neptune, like rose-colored glasses, basically, right? Um, and there can be like a lack of discernment, like, oh, this person is my twin flame, this person is my like meant to be, meant to be, meant to be. But then, like, you only really know, um, how good someone is for you once you've like lived with, once you've gotten that first fight, once you've seen their dark side, right? And I see it too much, and I'm a Pisces, trust me. So I have Venus square Pluto, so like I get it, Now, of course, having this Earth energy can make you very observant, though. So the Mars in Virgo, it can make you less. It can actually add needed analysis, right? To be able to like identify red flags in a potential love interest, and if you're married, remember the whole chart is just potentials, right? I don't know why I ordered groceries and they gave me these tiny, tiny bottles. They're, yeah, whatever. For me to use them and stuff if I want. But anyways, yeah. So a lot of times like the Venus. Neptune, yeah, there can be like a whole web of fantasies and oh, this, this and that, and this can happen, and kind of like illusions, But then there can be like, they can be like, because of those, like they can be very easily deceived. So that's like why that Earth energy can actually be very practical here, right? Um, so there's a real need with Venus and Neptune when those two connect in any way. That's imagination. I have so many creative clients. Because I've been saying this a lot. Imagination, Neptune. I always think of Van Gogh for some reason. The Starry Night painting, whatever it's called. Like you have to have the Neptunian imagination to have the idea, right? And then Venus was the ability to actually paint it. So there's a real creative outlet, which I keep talking about. It's needed here. Excuse me. But with that said, I think a 12th house Venus also, with the different people that you'd be in relationships with in this lifetime, there would be different relationships where there's like karmic imbalances in them, where you need to make them right. Um, so and lots of healing that can be done through that. Now, you know, with the rest of the Taurus energy, I mean, like you don't have a combust with your Mercury and Taurus, so it is conjunct Chiron. So, that is, you know, good for well, it does actually speak to, potential wound kind of growing up, like early communication, which totally goes with, the Saturn on the IC. Um and a lot of people with that, like they have to really grow into their kind of, and maybe there's just like kind of messaging from parents or authority figures or whatever, siblings, that made you kind of doubt your intelligence, or you know just even it could be so that sun opposite Uranus, Mars opposite Uranus, right? Just that need to kind of, that rebelliousness, right, can be Uranus is very ahead of its time. So, and then fifth house Uranus, uh, well, I just lost the connection for about 6 seconds. This happens because ever since I came back from the US, I've been having to use my hotspot, even though my internet works for everything else. Just on this computer, it just does not work, and it's very weird. But yeah. So it creates lots of empathy. Someone who can, heal. Like first, they have to heal that aspect of themselves, right? Find, their own kind of see for themselves. Like once they leave kind of their origins, or they're kind of like once they kind of get into the real world, they start to see, okay, I am smart, start to value that part of yourself. Then it creates someone who's a very good listener and who's able to really heal through their voice, right? So it's really, ideal for someone who's like a healer of any sort, a teacher, psychologist, whatever, and usually people who have that, they're the ones who their friends and family and all that come to when, speaking of times of need, right? Like stuff going on in my family where I'm the one who has that. So that's interesting. Um, and yeah, people will open up to you very easily. And the Cancer rising makes you have this like very warm kind of outward kind of familial feel, right? So people like who might not be in your family, they like can feel like, oh, like person's like my family. And the midheaven, being 28 Pisces, it's the same thing for people that don't know you. If you're like doing social media, for example, like I'm doing, you'd be kind of seen in that very Piscean Neptunian way. It's kind of cool. It's actually pretty good for for that kind of stuff, and it's very heavy. It's your midheaven. It's the highest point. Um, because yeah, Neptune rules cameras and being on being on film and or it rules cameras. So having videos of yourself to be something to be good at. Um, so let's see. So yeah, with a lot of stuff. I talked about like the need for like being independent, which is good that you had like that Uranus opposition. Kind of the tension there is really just like I said, Taurus wants stability, things to stay the same. Uranus wants to shake things up. Difficult, and now is kind of like a very decisive time. So yeah. Um, and then the moon, in Capricorn in relationships, it wants someone that can respect and that will respect them. It wants something that's very solid, that's built on very solid foundations. I'll say solid again. Like I always say, kind of how a skyscrapers they spend, or like big buildings, they spend so long on the foundations, right? That's kind of how it is for relationships. But then you have Venus and Gemini. It's funny. They're just they are quincunx, right? They're so different. And Venus and Gemini. I mean, they're it's 12th house, so there's that, and it's opposite Neptune, so there's that spiritual dynamic and that very romantic dynamic. But then with the Uranus energy you have and the Venus and Gemini, you can get bored easily, right? So there's that need for also intellectual stimulation, right? In relationships. Um, I'm not gonna say that like having someone who's spiritual is like a necessity, but definitely someone that's not keeping you away from expressing that Leo North Node, right? Um, so yeah, I mean, someone who has a little bit of fire could be very good, um, you know, because that can help activate. Like if you were with someone who had their, I don't know, ascendant, their sun or Mars or Venus or some, something like that on your North Node in Leo, that would be awesome. Um, but overall, um, you know, a lot of that depends on kind of how that um square with Pluto, the 10-degree square, like how much that's played out or how much that hasn't played out. Also you have Moon sextile Uranus, so that's once again someone who likes to be that's actually could be it is separated by 6 degrees, but still, it can be someone who, yeah, just who just like on an emotional level is just, you know, different, who just doesn't want to be like everyone else. And also it can make moving around a part of life. So yeah, because like a very lively kind of entertaining nature. Um, but like once again, like a powerful need to like be your own independent person and have freedom and yeah. So yep. And with career, definitely like a lot, like yeah, definitely needing like a lot like freedom in your career for sure. Um, stare. Yeah, so series in Taurus in the 11th, right? You are the caretaker, the nurturer within the groups, friend groups, and just any kind of organization, like you feel very also nurtured when you're, with, friends. It's Taurus, it's very warm, kind of Venusian feeling. Um, but relationship wise, it's like, um, feeling very cared for when someone gives you that kind of like the Capricorn moon, like that level, that feeling of stability, right? And security. And also, it's very touch oriented. Taurus is like, it likes touch and the senses. So being nurtured in very practical ways and nurturing in very practical ways. Um, and Vesta in the 12th. Wow. I'll talk about that after. But yeah, okay. So with the Gemini, what's interesting is that, like, yeah, so that kind of like it just speaks to that split that I've kind of made reference to, right? About like because sometimes people with Venus and Gemini, they just can hop from partner to partner. Sometimes they'll like not even know they're flirting with someone, you know, because they're just literally curious in that person. And also, Venus rules the hands, so with the whole creativity, it could be something related to the hands, guitar, I don't know, painting, something. But yeah. Um, and yeah, I mean, Black Moon Lilith also like a different sign, but it is on the IC. So, you could literally come from a blood, either bloodline or karmic bloodline of witches, right? That is something that's part of your karmic past. Now, I was going to read something out of this book. Um, so okay, I'm reading right now. So yeah, Uranus. So it's interesting that Uranus is square your node. Square to the node is considered a skip karmic step, right? Um, and it's Uranus, right? Yes. It's like they're so small. Oh God, how am I gonna see the fixed stars? Okay. So yeah, so Uranus, so there's unresolved karmic material, and a need for liberation from conditioning and from the past. It stems in part from past um, wounding and from exposure to excessive conditioning influences in past lives. With this, the nil axis of the moon can be understood as a trauma signature, indicating that the unresolved trauma is a critical part of the skip step. Analysis of the house and sign aspects to the skip step planet, um, which is the sun, so it could literally relate to your identity, right? Like past life, um, like conditions that maybe are mimicked in this life where you weren't allowed to be your individualistic self, right? You were kind of pushed to kind of be a certain way. Um, yeah. So this symbolizes a crisis in individuation. The person has started to detach themselves from prior conditioning, but they have either not been able to maintain this process or they remain blind to a critical aspect of how the conditioning imprisons them, which then results in a block to the true expression of their individuality. It can also indicate a specific fear or post-traumatic stress that blocks access to the true self, which with the 29-degree Capricorn moon could very well be that, right? Um, it can also mark the need to reintegrate some former illumination that has been lost or resisted. Ooh, I felt that one. So the more you dive into the esoteric and the spiritual side of life, and that inner healer, the more you'll find. There's a powerful requirement to embrace the transformational nature of the self. Regression, so past life regression work or depth therapy can aid in recovering deeper unconscious material, both traumas and the gifts. Keyword in the gifts. And this is going to trip you out. This placement emphasizes the importance of the Uranus opposition. Yo, so this is so heavy what you're going through right now on a karmic level. How, like, hearing that, like, I mean, how much does that just like put everything in perspective? Like what you're feeling now is not just, it's like this is lifetimes and lifetimes, right? Um, because often, what happens is that our karmic circumstances are mimicking the past life karma that we're trying to deal with, right? So very interesting. All right. So yeah, tons of indicators of being a healer, like Vertex and Sag in the sixth, your doorway to higher awareness is through you know, being of service, being consistent in your day-to-day life, having like also Sagittarius is about traveling, different cultures, traveling physically or traveling metaphorically, right? Different philosophies and really trying to like make your worldview broader. So um, people with the sign Sagittarius could be very influential to you. And not sun sign, just like, prominent in the chart. Or just Jupiterian people. So yeah, like overall, the love has to have some level of consistency, but then also some level of play, a level of realism, a level of like, I can trust this is consistent. Like I'm not, the Taurus doesn't want that either, right? But then there has to be a level of like, it can't just be like someone who is exactly, where you are, which I don't like to use the word twin flame that much, but like that the principle of the twin flame relationship, right? It would make sense for your chart because someone with some fire could come in and really illuminate, and then maybe that person, and I'm not a twin flame master, like to me, like the word I'm not a big fan of, but like very, very karmic relationship, right? Where you like because like you have so much earth and stability, people like myself, like I have no earth, right? So I have to like really try hard to keep balance and to have stability and to struggle to kind of like wake up each day and feel like the same person. So when you have earth, you you can be very consistent. It's just about lacking fire, getting started, that ignition point, right? That kind of inner child feeling, like that inner child part, right? So this is so hard. Oh my God. Okay. All right. Um, so you also have a Pluto, it squares your ascendant, right? This adds like if you're an athlete, I wouldn't be surprised because like that makes someone super, super like competitive. Um, Speaking of that, I need to check something real quick. Excusez-moi. Et je peux finir en français, si besoin. So I need to put this. I like to have the basketball on in the background. I don't watch it, don't worry. Just look at the sport. NBA, c'est les playoffs de l'NBA. l'NBA, et je suis un très grand fan. Imagine si s'il y a quelqu'un qui regarde ça sur YouTube et si je finis tout en français, ça serait trop rigolo. Je pense que je suis un peu loin, mais j'étais un peu loin pour faire ça. Mais pour le follow-up, on peut parler en français. C'était plus facile. Um, so yeah, like Pluto, where ascendant, it can create like a subconscious fear that others are trying to control you. And it just can create like lots of dramas to the life because it's squaring the ascendant and the descendant, right? So yeah, it can create lots of power struggles in relationships. So it's really important to kind of find, so like, relationships will be like where you experience a lot of your shadow, and a lot of your healing. Um, so yeah, like until like the shadow work is done, someone who has this can really, like, relationships can really feel like a battlefield, of trying to like yeah, power struggles, manipulation, because there can be this like fear of abandonment, so that's why there's that need for that kind of that deep probing into yourself, and that death rebirth transformation, and that liquefying liquidation, not liquid, that the need to liquefy, the stuck karmic emotional patterns. um but yeah, the more you become conscious of kind of like the deeper aspects of play, and how the Pluto's in the fourth house, so it's literally like the kind of childhood energy playing out. And when you can see that, then you can see, okay, it's not necessarily the person, it's more something that I haven't dealt with in myself from my past, right? Um, so yeah. Um, what else of that one? Yeah, there can be a lot of like dark stuff with this Pluto square ascendant. There can a lot some people that can like have like a big fear of like losing their father. There can be like some OCD type energy, um, just all kinds of stuff, right? Um, it can make someone a little bitter and just have difficulty trusting, like a paranoia. Um, so that's why the relationships have to really be built on that solid foundation of trust, and with your third house being so solid. Um, yeah, Saturn's there, but that becomes like a strength after the return. Um, using that communication to have very, I say solid too much, very just like accurate and distinct communication about boundaries within the relationship, right? Like what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Um, so yeah, yeah, like the more spiritual evolution there is, like yeah, that's you're able to kind of like transcend that kind of need for, like power and control in relationships, which, with the square at the moon, it could come, yeah, from the mother relationship, or just, and if that square doesn't work, and just from the, family relationship overall, because your moon does have, it has the sextile with Uranus, and um also with the midheaven, so it's like it's not like it's making, and with Ceres, it trends Ceres, so the moon has like nice aspect, right? um it trines, yeah, well, the sun and the moon both trine Saturn, so um makes me think that the relationship with the mother maybe wasn't so as difficult, but um I need to hear your lived experience with that Pluto square to see if that's, because that would be the only really difficult one with the mother. And then there's like, but it's such a huge, massive one. But then there's like, you know, all those other ones that are really, really good. That she'd have a really good impact on your career. That she'd be very nurturing, have like a very nurturing energy. And then also that you would have a very nurturing energy on other people. Um, that you'd be very well liked, as a public persona. Um, and that you're someone who sticks to their word, right? Um, so I mean, yeah, the Saturn one's a little far, but still. And also Saturn retrograde is, a lot, I've been seeing a lot lately. It is kind of indication that this lifetime is kind of a do-over in certain aspects. I always think of the whole conditioning thing and how there's a need to kind of get it right this time around not giving in to materialism and the conditioning that kind of surrounds that. So that's very important. All right. Well, what have I not spoken of? The stars, perhaps. Oh yeah, and then of course Juno, which is like I don't care what anyone says, Juno is like, what you look for in like a deep like marriage type relationship. It's in Leo, just like I said. So, a mate that gives or a partner that gives you that spark, that inner child that kind of helps you with your North Node is the best. Um, I'm curious about siblings too. If there's anything there, because it could be like siblings that had like a difficult effect. If yeah, if the Pluto square is not wasn't really like that prominent. Um, yeah, just have this like real zest to you, where you can just like even though there's a lack of fire, like this ability to just like to take risks, and that's how you make it in life. I'm sure you found out it's through risks, and I mean for myself, like everything in my life that's good has come from a fucking crazy risk, you know. All right, so Vesta in the 12th, that gives like in Gemini, that gives like a very strong like dedication to spiritual path, spiritual values, um, just potentially even like working in something related to spirituality. And in Gemini, you're able to network very well and yeah, just very good for writing as well. And that whole third house is really good for writing too. And Pallas is over there in the 10th house in Aries conjunct by fortune. So um Pallas is in the 10th house. That makes you very, very wise and strategic in terms of your career choices, right? Um like kind of like a chess player, like you like can like really see ahead of time and make the right decisions. Very like yeah. And creativity kind of playing a role in your career. And Aries, combined with that, I think that just like Aries ruling that 10th house, like just wanting independence in career. But I have Palace and Aries too, so it gives a very, very, very like sharp intellect. Um, very, very innovative. You know, which with the Uranus energy, obviously. Um, someone who can just like come up with like ideas and boom, roll with them. Um, and then part of fortune, being like kind of like your flow state in Aries in the 10th. It's like you are feeling your best, you are at your best, you are like in your zone when you are um basically kind of very independent and achieving your worldly goals. But remember, there's the balance between the worldly goals and the inner work that needs to be done because Saturn on the IC, it will if you don't handle whatever that energy is, right, and go back and do that work that we talked about with like the Uranus square and all that, that it will prevent you from achieving all you can achieve, right? I have the same thing with Pluto on my IC, right, where it's like if I don't go and do the shadow work and it squares my nodes, sucks. So it's like past life trauma I don't remember. Um, but you get clues, right, about what your past life trauma is by your current life circumstances. and what triggers you, right? So I told you earlier that like your emotions, like your physical reactions will give you lots of clues to your emotions, and also like how you are in relationships. So you have lots of clues there. Um, yeah. So and like also yeah, like Capricorn Moon. I think I don't know if I said it. They have like a lot of times they have trouble. Like they can be like really suffering and just like feel such a pride. And I know that's more like the machismo of like the men, but like even the women sometimes can have like such a pride that they don't want to like like kind of admit to being failure to being not failure, but to being like hurt or going through like really tough time. They always want to kind of put out this like really strong kind of you know uh exterior. um so yeah, being able to ask for help is so important. Like literally my brother, like I had to like literally tell him like he for years didn't reach out to anyone about like a major problem he had. I literally had to tell him like, look, like I don't judge anyone, like I've heard everything from my clients, like you can tell me whatever. So now, slowly this Capricorn moon, he has a way harder chart than yours. I mean, he has like everything possible hard in the chart. Um, he also has Mars in Virgo. He has have like everything, but his Venus is in Taurus. So and Mercury is in Cancer. So yeah, a lot. But yeah, so yeah, part of fortune. Yeah, it's like the need to like overcome those childhood inhibitions, and strive for real maturity and responsibility, and being like the artist that creates the life that fits their exact needs. And it is totally in line with that North Node in Leo. Um, the high vibe of Leo is not the narcissist. It's not the showboater. It's the person who has found authentic self-expression and who's able to, to really who does yeah they found that authentic self-expression, and it comes from them. It doesn't come from some external force, it purely is from their soul, and that is the beauty of it. So I'm gonna leave it there. Actually, I can't. No, no. I, no, I'm gonna leave it there. Okay. Everything on time. Let's see. I haven't gone over 2 hours yet. I have again. I can never stop. Okay. So let's see. Okay. This is gonna be hard. Ooh, the nebula on Saturn. So the nebula is the truth seeker. So you're like a very serious, like esoteric truth seeker. Um, and it could be linked to like astrology, numerology, all these ologies. um, yeah, you have a very strong kind of Lilith presence. You have to spiritually protect yourself. That's very important. Lilith in the fourth, I have that there too. Um, and if you have like relationships, don't show them off. Like, just be more, don't do that. People can get jealous and cast the evil eye. But Lilith asteroid on Pluto, yeah, that's interesting. Just definitely like a very strong, like kind of like the very strong feminine. Um, could be linked like feminism. That's like as a metaphoric example. Not saying that you're a feminist for sure. You're saying that could be. Okay. Okay. You're able to really attain unconditional love in relationships, more on conjunct ascendant. So it's maybe my favorite asteroid besides Juno, um, because it's like literally about unconditional love. So with these very karmic relationships, wow, you have the Lilith everywhere. and it's like the dark moon, which is like dark moon, which is one of the three. That's the one that's really linked to like kind of the lower manifestation. It's in Aquarius, but it's conjunct your moon, so you have all activated. So yeah, so in the relationship, you can really like find that universal love and have unconditional love for your partners even when you're not with them. Okay, this speaks about how you can like the real darker side of Aquarius, which is kind of like aloofness and just yeah, like um hmm, interesting because it's in a different sign as your moon. But I would just say that like um yeah, just the lower potential of that Capricorn moon um can be very, very like self-destructive. So it's like really important for you to understand the work that needs to be done or that you maybe have done around that. Um, but that's an Aquarius. Yeah, I think that could speak to like a coldness and aloofness and inability to connect. You know, not wanting to connect, not allowing yourself to be vulnerable and connect on that deep level. So yeah. Um, so yeah, you're literally a poet. Um, you're a poet. You have Sappho on Mercury. Um, like staring and trying to see that field. Okay, 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 okay. So let's see. So so Hamal and Mercury can give like lots of tact, lots of strategy. Someone who's like very influenced by their marriage partner, and very determined mind and lots of friends. But it could also, yeah, have create kind of like a dull mind, a lower vibration. And Mercury and Taurus, like it is um not known for being open-minded. They very logical, wants proof for things. So it's really cool when I get Mercury and Taurus people as clients. I'm like, you guys are fucking awesome. And when they don't have like any like big aspects. Um, so Beetlejuice is on your Venus. Ooh, and Eros is on your Venus. Interesting. Um, so yeah, Venus conjunct Eros. That's like Era. It gives you the ability to like blend like erotic and romantic love very easily. Um, it kind of makes you really need to like feel physically and emotionally attracted to someone before you can truly open up and share that more like Eros erotic or that kind of side. Um, but yeah, it's also kind of like creates someone who can be like highly susceptible to falling in love frequently and kind of like the same theme as that Neptune opposition. Um, maybe like a confusing love with lust. And then you have Uranus conjunct lust. So that can just bring up all kinds of like just like random out of nowhere, like whoa, kind of yeah. Um yeah, so just like easily infatuated with other people. You can like let's say you become obsessed with someone um and try to use sexuality to make them fall for you in return. That's the potential for that. And sometimes it can make someone just like um not take the time to get to know the person and be like really like into like the appearance or even status. But yeah, it's very, I mean, Venus and Eros together is very erotic. I don't like to talk about these things, male, straight male astrologer, but I just say I say how I see it. But it does create lots of kind of sensuality and eroticism when you've trusted that person. Capricorn Moon, Virgo, Mars will be like, but then the Neptune opposition will be like, ah. So you understand. So lastly, Betelgeuse conjunct Venus. Um, so that is really, really good for just creating art, um, like fine pieces of art. Um, and it's also really good for money, even though the 12th house can be like where you can kind of be your worst enemy. But yeah, it's good for money. Beetlejuice is favorable for gain. But there can be some kind of sorrow connected with, with love and with family also. So yeah, uh, I think you think we covered everything? I think so. Um, we'll have the follow up and let me know if you want to add the I'm sure you're going to the current astrology and we can get that scheduled as soon as you are ready. Wait, okay, no. Hold on. Yeah, also one thing about Uranus fifth house with respect to love is that it can create like lots of like really out of the ordinary, just really fast flings. That's just something I've noticed because Uranus just creates surprises. There can be like lots of surprises in love, but they don't always last. Not that your relationships don't last, right? It's just like with it's just something that with a lot in your chart that I could see um, taking place. Okay, I need to hide these. So yeah, lots of themes. So make sure, I always tell people like first time, watch it over unless you like really know your own chart. Um, and then watch it a few times. Take notes so you come prepared. Um, you come prepared. Oh, and then one other thing I can look for. Wow, so your Venus is out of bounds. So basically that's just kind of like showing how like your Venus is like it's very uncontrolled, and it is yeah, it can be a little loose cannon. So very interested to hear your love life if you feel like divulging those details. I don't ever ask. Um and I'm looking for just one other. You see the Virgo. I don't have any Virgo on my chart, but I get very Virgo, which is a problem because I have a huge wait list, but I just It's been so long. Meetings. I need to learn to get these to 90 minutes, but it's tough. Okay, which I've done before. I can do it. Just that I don't know. I just feel like I'm doing God's work, and yeah. Um, okay. So Uranus is parallel with the moon. So yeah, that just speaks to that, yeah, that unconventional nature. And, maybe you just experienced the mother as like a very kind of independent person and a very unconventional upbringing, but maybe there wasn't like a bad vibe or anything. Maybe, maybe there's a little bit of distance. Um, maybe she was just like very artistic or just very kind of her own person, unique. Um, okay, let's see. Okay. And then Mars and Mercury are parallel, so it's kind of like a conjunction. Um, so yeah, you can you can back up what you say, and you can have a certain, real drive to communicate and real drive to have your voice be heard, and um other way around. Um, yeah, like very good leader and planner and yeah. Okay. That means it's just like so high. Um, of course, Mars and Jupiter can jump in are parallel, so they were like not only are they together in the sky, like longitude, but also the declination is like together. So they're just very close. Um, and I think that's probably it. Yeah. So that is all. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll be hearing from you soon. And once again, I'm sorry I did not see your email. That is really annoying. And I would have literally answered and been like, let's do this. Yeah. So maybe there's some divine synchronicity or timing to this. I don't know. Only time will tell. And yeah, I guess I spent like close to 3 hours on this. But that's how it is. Much love to you. I hope this found you well. Ciao.